I've been hearing people, Etsy sellers, are getting scammed. There's a big thing going on right now where you're actually messaged by, people think Etsy, but it's really not Etsy. And you're giving them information that, can really hurt you. Could actually, it could scam you out of money as well. And it could give them information that could, hurt your Etsy shop as well. Let's take a look at what we're talking about here. And let me pull up this article. This article was written by Auction Bites blog. Give them a little shout out. They have a lot of great just stuff that's happening in news. And I usually go through and try to stay up on this. And this here, I've been seeing a lot of this in the Facebook groups and things like that. And let's just kind of dig in here. Scammers are often successful by getting their victim to voluntarily hand over their personal and financial information to them by tricking them rather than having to hack into the victim's account. A favorite target these days appears to be Etsy sellers who are inundated in industry boards with questions about the legitimacy of notifications made to look like they're coming from the company. The fake notifications are convincing, informing sellers they must take action or else they won't receive any new orders or will stop receiving payments. A few excerpts of phishing notifications we've seen reported by Etsy sellers in industry boards include the following. Hello, your shop is temporarily unable to accept new orders. To restore the shop and see new orders in your profile, please write your email address in the chat. You will be sent a notification where you can complete a simple verification. That's one message that's being noted that's been sent. Due to an update to our payment system, our global security update, order processing for your account is currently suspended. You will need to identify your store. As soon as this is done, it will be back up and running normally. Please fill out the form to verify your store. There's another one. Let's see. Your item has been paid for by the buyer, but an error occurred while processing their order, and the order cannot be displayed in your personal account. This is due to the update of the payment system on Etsy. Please enter your email in the chat to get a customized form for confirming your store. It appears some scammers use Etsy messaging systems to send a member-to-member message and use Etsy's logo as their icon to make it look as if it's coming from Etsy representative. An Etsy spokesperson told E-commerce Bites at Etsy, we're dedicated to keeping our sellers in Etsy marketplace safe, and including a link to an August post it had published containing a few simple steps sellers could take to protect themselves and their business when it comes to account security. Additionally, the spokesperson said, we recently introduced a new From Etsy section in the messages to make it easier for sellers to identify when they're receiving an official communication from Etsy or someone on the Etsy team. All right, I'm not going to read the rest of this, but Chris, what can people do to avoid this or to not fall for it?
So the first thing is just a little bit of common sense, right? And if there's three things that Etsy says that you never need to worry about. Buyers will never, ever, ever, ever need your email to complete a purchase. So if anybody is saying they need an email address, a password, a credit card number, any information to complete the purchase on their side, it is a scam. Mark it as a scam. Etsy would either send you a notification or a message, right? An email with that information in it. They're not going to use the buyer seller messaging system to do that. Number two, they say real messages from Etsy always have the badge of Etsy staff, right? So they'll have an Etsy staff thing. It'll have a little check mark and some verification. Now, Scott, you know, I got one of these back in December on the account that we use to show things when we're doing a course, right? So it doesn't have a ton of listings in it, but we do some listing creation. 3 days after I created a listing, I got one of these, and it was from Etsy staff with 2 A's and 1 F. Not how you spell the word staff. So typos, misspellings, all of those kinds of things, big red flag. But they took a screenshot of the legitimate Etsy staff thing and put that as their picture. But again, they were asking for an email address. Etsy doesn't need your email address. Why? Because they got it when you signed up for Etsy. And if you've been through 123POD or you've ever set up an Etsy store, you know that's like the first thing that they ask you for. So Etsy already has that on file. They have your credit card on file. Lastly, they said they will not call you ever unless you ask them to. So if you get a call and you have not asked Etsy support to call you, if you get a call from somebody, and this is, I think, a newer version of this, where if you have a phone number listed or you do give them the phone number in one of these chats, they will then call you and ask for more information. Etsy will only ever call you, Etsy support will only ever call you if you ask them to do that. So if you're getting a message that says you have to give them more information in order to complete a sale, that you have to give them an email address, that they ask you to click a link or go anywhere, it is a scam. And if it happens to be legitimate and you mark it as spam, Etsy will follow up. So if I'm missing something obvious here, Etsy's going to follow up on this if they're trying to get a piece of information. But Etsy has all of this information. They have your email, they have a payment method, they have all of those things on file before you can even create a listing. And so there's no reason they would need that information. Again, it's just somebody trying to scam the system. So and Scott, I've seen these start to get a little bit more complex over the last few months, where they are doing things like, instead of just misspelling staff, right? They're going in and they're taking a screenshot of like the verified logo and trying to make it look.
Yeah.
If they're asking you for any information to complete a sale, it's a scam, right? There's no reason Etsy needs it. It's already on file.
Yeah, no. And we've got some people, basically giving some things here. So like Pedro says, on top of that, any messages from Etsy go directly to the messages folder from Etsy. Right. So yeah, I mean, can it get more sophisticated? It can, but again, a lot of times it's like that common sense piece. It's like, okay, where did it come from? Okay. And also, is it within your Etsy account? I would say if it comes in an email, I would definitely not use that one. Right. Because emails, a lot of times, the way that a lot of companies will do phishing, right? And they'll want you to enter things. Credit card companies have been known for that as well. So you got to be very, very careful. And like you just said, Chris, I would not give my email any type of login credentials. And I might even, with the conversation, is go back and forth with that person to try to pull information as far as why do you need this, and things like that. But for the most part, under messages from Etsy, and I believe Etsy is definitely going to be on this. This is a security issue, which should be top priority. I can't say for certain, but I would definitely say that they are going to be looking at how they're going to be able to prevent this. But Chris, I'm just curious, because it hasn't happened to us, at least as far as I know. Where are these messages coming from? Where are people getting the messages? Is it in their messenger on their phone, on the app? Is it as they're logged into their dashboard? Where is this coming from? I don't know, because I haven't gotten any.
Yeah, it literally shows up in your messages inbox, right? So and you just mentioned this a minute ago because somebody was talking about it in the chat, right? If you go to the messages folder inside of your shop manager, there is a section. So you have search, dashboard, listings, and then messages. The very first section there, Scott, is your inbox. That's going to be communication with customers and potential customers. Remember, there's a contact this shop link on your listing and on your shop page where they can send you a message, right? In case they have a question about something, they can contact you that way. It should show up under the Meet Your Seller section on the listing. It says something like message this seller here, right? And so it's going to come into, typically speaking, your inbox. And one of the things that Etsy did is they said, okay, we have the From Etsy section now. So you have the regular inbox, then they have a section for order help, and they have a section for From Etsy. And if I look at the spam one that I got, it just showed up in my inbox, just as a general message. Your order help ones are going to show up there. Your sent are going to show up there. Everything's going to show up in that inbox. But if it's not in the subfolder From Etsy, you can probably just ignore it completely, right? Especially if they're asking for information, mark it as spam and delete it.
So you just have to be smart about it. Never just put your email in any type of information about you that they could get access to, then get your account and then lock you out of your account. You don't want that to happen either. And like I said, I'm sure Etsy is going to be doing something about this, because this is a serious matter. It's a big deal. That is scary. And hopefully you are watching this. And if you are, and you get any of those messages, you now are aware and to be cautious.